What if I tell you that you are not lazy? I know that sounds strange, right? Because there you are lying on your bed, phone in hand, endlessly scrolling, telling yourself, I should be doing something, but still you don't move. You call it laziness, you think it's who you are, but what if it's not? What if that feeling you have been calling laziness is actually just a lie your brain tells you when it hasn't found a reason to act? Let me show you what I mean by talking about the most unexpected person. A character who literally wanted to do nothing with his life, and his name is Nagi Seishiro from Bluelock. He wasn't ambitious, he wasn't hardworking. In fact, he would have been completely fine living his whole life playing video games and lying around. But something changed, something just woke him up, and what happened after that teaches us something that most people never realize. And today we are going to figure out exactly what it is. See, Nagi wasn't born with a hunger to compete. He didn't chase goals or dream of stadium lights. In fact, during his school days, Nagi was often seen sitting alone and gaming quietly. He wasn't energetic, he wasn't ambitious, he was just unbothered. The kind of person most people would call lazy. However, laziness isn't a lack of ability, rather it's a lack of reason. Nagi didn't see the point in trying. To him, effort was a hassle. Striving for something meant tiring yourself out, and for what? He didn't hate the world, he simply didn't care enough to fully participate in it. But everything started to change the day he met Ryo Mikage. Ryo accidentally bumped into Nagi, and in that one unexpected moment, he realized that he had just come across a raw genius. But genius means nothing without direction. Nagi didn't care about Ryo's dream. He said no to Ryo as soccer sounded like too much work. Training, sweating, running, it was everything Nagi avoided. But Ryo refused to let go, so he made Nagi a promise to show him a life that's more interesting. Therefore Nagi agreed, not because he wanted to be a star player, but because Ryo was offering him something that his games couldn't, and that is a real life adventure. He then entered Bluelock. At first he stayed the same, still yawning, still indifferent, still letting Ryo carry most of the emotional weight. He relied on Ryo's excitement, his plans, his energy. Nagi just followed along. But then came a turning point. Nagi met Isagi Yoshi, a player who wasn't naturally gifted like him, but burned with a relentless drive and hunger. Isagi was different. He wasn't playing for fun or comfort. He was playing to become the best. That kind of ambition made Nagi pause. It annoyed him, it intrigued him, and it challenged him. For the first time, Nagi felt something new. He didn't just want to follow anymore, he wanted to compete. But why did that happen? Because he finally found a reason. See, Nagi was never lazy, he just didn't find what made him move. We often look at ourselves on a lazy afternoon lying on the bed with our phones in hand and an unfinished task list and say, I'm just not a productive person. But here's something you probably haven't realized. You are not lazy. You just haven't found a reason strong enough to move you yet. Think about it. Have you ever noticed how you magically stop being lazy when the exam dates come closer? 1 week before, you are still scrolling through your phones. 3 days before, you are just getting your notes organized. But the night before the exam, suddenly you are solving equations, reading paragraphs, and even understanding the most complex theories that you ignored for weeks. I still remember the night before my criminal law exam when I hadn't touched 3 full chapters. But as the clock ticked closer to the test, I wasn't lazy anymore. I was unstoppable. I didn't need a motivational quote or a productivity video. The fear of failure and the pressure of time became my reasons. This isn't just about students and exams. It happens in every aspect of life. You have probably told yourself that you'll start working out tomorrow or that you'll fix your sleep schedule on the weekend, but you never did. Not because you're incapable, but because you don't have a reason that feels urgent or meaningful enough to override your comfort. When there is no reason that feels real or meaningful, we turn to comfort. It desires pleasure and avoids discomfort. So we reach for the phone instead of the notebook, or skip the gym because the couch is more comfortable. However, we aren't broken, we simply lack a reason that pulls us out of our comfort zone and take action. And that's where your brain comes in. According to the book The Science of Self-Discipline by Peter Hollins, there's a concept called the 40% rule, made famous by Navy SEAL David Goggins.
So the 40% rule is all of that. You get to 40%, your brain says, we're done. Let's roll, man. This is starting to get painful. This is uncomfortable. So you sit down.
This rule says that when you feel like you have reached your limit, whether it's mentally, physically, or emotionally, you have only used 40% of your true capacity. To protect you from discomfort, your brain applies the brakes early and says, stop, I am tired, this is too much for me. But those aren't signs of actual danger, they are just discomfort, and discomfort is not the end. That means when you say I can't do this anymore, there's actually 60% of effort still untapped inside you, but tapping into it requires you to stop obeying that comfort-loving voice in your head. Let's say you are at the gym, you have done 8 reps of squats and your muscles are burning and your mind tells you to drop the weights. That's your 40% voice. But what if you push for 2 more reps or even just 1 more? That's not just building your body, instead that's building your discipline. Every time you ignore that voice, even in the slightest way, you are proving to yourself you don't have to obey every desire. You're showing your mind that you are in control of it. This is why most of the time we confuse laziness with personality. Laziness is not a character flaw, it's a signal or a false alarm you can say that we have been trained to listen to, but you can unlearn that. Every time you scroll instead of working or cancel your plan to study, it's not because you're weak, it's because that 40% voice is louder than your reason. So what's the solution? It will be to find your reason, a real one, something that matters more to you than your temporary comfort. It could be a goal, it could be a person, it could be a fear. Whatever it is, it has to be big enough to carry you through your discomfort. And once you have it, you will understand that laziness was never a problem, rather it was a lack of reason. And when you still find yourself hesitating, pause and ask yourself, is this real or is this just a 40% talking? If you get up and do something, even if it's just a small thing, you have just beaten that moment and that's a win. And when you stack those little wins together day after day, something beautiful starts to happen. You stop seeing yourself as lazy and you start seeing yourself as someone who gets things done even when it's uncomfortable. Laziness isn't who you are, it's simply a signal waiting to be questioned, and all you really need is a reason strong enough to push past that 40%. So in conclusion, the next time you catch yourself lying in bed, avoiding the work, convincing yourself that you are not built for discipline, I want you to pause for a second, not to judge yourself, but to ask one simple question: what's my reason? Because that's where it all begins. It's not about forcing yourself to change overnight, it's about understanding that the so-called laziness you feel isn't some permanent part of your identity. It's just your brain trying to protect you from discomfort. Even Nagi wasn't truly alive when he found a reason that lit a fire inside him, a reason that pushed him to run, to struggle, to grow. Not because he suddenly stopped being lazy, but because that reason made everything else worth it. And that's your mission now. Not to become someone new, but to dig deep and find the reason that makes you move. Maybe it's a goal, or maybe it's just a decision to prove to yourself that you're capable of more. And trust me, you are, as you're not lazy, you just haven't found your reason yet. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.